Over the past year, 2020, we spent a lot of time keeping our eyes on the immediate horizon. What's happening this month? How did storage perform the last 3 weeks? What's happening next month? And we haven't really lifted and looked very far into the future because the future is so unknown. And that's appropriate. But as a business owner, we've got to look into the future. I talked about that last week. We've got to look into the future. We've got to see what's coming down the pike so we can make decisions today based on what we see happening in our self-storage industry in the next year or two. But what about further out? Well, most people today aren't looking too far out into the future because the future is such an unknown. But I think that's a mistake. Let's look into the future. And I'm going to give you my top 3 predictions about self-storage over the next decade. My name's Mark Helm, and I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Quick Start Academy. And what I do is I support the small investor who wants to get in the self-storage business or who wants to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. And let me give you my top 3 predictions about the self-storage industry in the upcoming years. But before I do, let's talk about the elephant that's in the room right now, which is oversupply. Here's my take on it. Oversupply is a temporary phenomenon. Oversupply is a natural place to be in the real estate cycle. Now, I don't want to minimize any consequences you may be dealing with at the moment if you're in a sub-market that's oversupplied. You know, many markets are oversupplied, many sub-markets are oversupplied, and it's not fun. I've been in them, I'm in them. It's not a fun thing to be dealing with. But keep in mind, it's a temporary phenomena, and it's the winter. And just like the seasons of the year, what follows winter is spring and summer. Oversupply is a natural part of the real estate cycle. It won't last forever. Some markets it'll last longer than others, but it won't last forever. And what changes that? Well, in the self-storage space, for the most part, it's population growth. Population growth will solve most problems we run into in real estate, but particularly self-storage. So I realize that many submarkets, as I make these predictions, are overbuilt. I don't want to minimize that, and I'm not running from it. You've got to deal with it. But just know it's a temporary phenomenon, and what follows oversupply will be equilibrium, and then you'll move into an expansion mode. But let me give you my 3 predictions as I look further into the future, let's say the next decade for self-storage. Prediction number 1, institutional money will continue to flow in to the self-storage space at even a faster clip. As an industry, we're maturing as we move into the adult phase of the self-storage industry. And that means there's going to be a lot of large players, institutional money flowing into the self-storage space. Now, that makes it hard in some cases for small investors to buy product. We're competing with large companies whose cost of capital is lower, drives prices up. Sometimes it's not fun competing with them. But the reality is, over the next decade, more of that money is going to be flowing into the self-storage space. Don't fight it, don't resist it, don't make it wrong. It's just what I see is going to be happening. The real challenge is, for the small investors, how do I compete with them? Where can I carve out a niche that allows me to do what I need to do, given that a lot of what some people call stupid money is going to be chasing self-storage? So we've now incorporated and made part of our business strategy is we're looking for product that for the most case, not in all cases, but for the most case, the institutional money won't be chasing. And the good news is in self-storage, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of small mom and pop facilities that can be purchased out there, or are ripe for value add plays. And there's a lot of good secondary markets where REITs either aren't there yet or are growing into in the outer belts of some of these larger cities. It's not hard to find product that they're not like circling around trying to buy. It may shorten the amount of time we're holding the products. It may adjust many things of our initial business strategy, but we're not resisting the fact there's a lot of money out there chasing self-storage, and we've incorporated that reality into what we're doing to find product and to put product into service. So for the next 5 to 10 years, I see institutional money continuing to flow into the self-storage space. Prediction number 2. Demand for self-storage will increase. I see 2 factors at play here over the next decade. The first is the percent of the population that uses self-storage. Now, I don't have data from 2010 to 2020, primarily because we don't have the census data yet from the 2000 census. The previous administration has held up a lot of the information that was gathered in the census. There's been some wrangling over how certain segments of the population are going to be counted in the census data, and that data is not out yet. So in essence, when we're doing all our analysis in self-storage, we're using 2010 data. Sorry to go on this rant, but it's really driving me crazy. Just get the 2020 census data out, quit arguing over it, just get it out so that we and all the real estate sectors can begin to use this data. But the last statistic I saw is from 2000 to 2010, we know that use of self-storage, the percent of the population that began to use it went up. I suspect that that has doubled. I don't know that till we get our census data, but I suspect that a larger percent between 2010 and 2020 of the population began using self-storage. So we have it's becoming an accepted product, a known product. The industry is maturing, and more people, a larger percentage of the population, will begin to use this product and feel safe using it, and it's an accepted product. Imagine the demand if 2% more of the population in the next 5 years starts, 2% more of the population in the next 5 years begins using our product. And the second driver is the population itself is growing. Again, we don't have all of the census data from the 2020 census yet, but here, let's just take a look at what we think we know. We think, based on 2010 data, that the population grew 19.5 million in the U.S., or 6.5%. Now, if you just take that number times what the average equilibrium is across the U.S., and I don't know what it is in your part of the world, but let's just say 7.5 square feet per capita. That population and growth in the last 10 years generated demand for an additional 146,250,000 square feet of self-storage. That 146 million square feet is new self-storage that needs to be built to satisfy the demand at the current level of demand that our population has. So that's an average of 12,187,500 square feet per year of new self-storage space that needs to come online just to meet the demand of the growing population. That doesn't include a larger percentage of the population using self-storage. So as our population grows, that growth itself generates a lot of unmet demand. Now, not all of the U.S. experiences that population growth equally. Some parts of the country it's growing faster. Other parts it's flat or even declining. You've got to look at that, incorporate that in your business strategy. But demand for self-storage over the next decade is going to be increasing. Larger percentage of population using it, population's growing. The last prediction I have for the next decade in our industry is consolidation. Again, we talk a lot about the large players, the institutional money. They own today 25% or less. I haven't, again, because of the census data and everything, I just don't know I don't have the exact number at the moment. The last stat I saw a few years ago was that the REITs account for less than 20%, but they've been really on buying sprees the past couple years. So let's say that it's still under 25% of all self-storage facilities are owned by large players. The vast majority of our product is still owned by someone who just owns one facility. Over the next decade, there's going to be a real consolidation in our industry, and the bigger players are going to own a larger and larger percent. Again, like overbuilding or like money from institutional buyers flowing into our space, don't fight it, don't resist it, don't make it bad. It's just what's happening. It's just what's so. It's given our economy and how our economy's evolved, it's a natural product. It's gonna happen. Use it. Use it to your advantage, or at least be aware of it and organize yourself around it. We incorporate it in our exit strategy. We're going to take advantage of that consolidation. We may be holding them for shorter periods of time now, but we're going to exit and sell our product to those institutional buyers as they consolidate. We're just incorporating it into our business strategy. So 10 years from now, who knows? How much will they own? 30%, 40%, 50%? Who knows? But that's the trend that I see coming down the pike. So we often hear a lot about how expensive getting in storage is, how overbuilt it is, how bad it is, what a bad time it is to try to get into self-storage. All that may be valid, but I'm telling you, from what I see, there's a bright future, but you've got to organize yourself around what you think are the trends that are going to be coming in the next 10 years. Incorporate those into your business strategy. In my humble opinion, there's still no better asset class than self-storage. For the small investor, it is the space to be in. So thank you very much. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. That's the financial analysis modeling tool we use as we analyze our deals and look into the future to see what the cash flows are going to be for these projects. If you're not using it, I invite you to take a look at it, storageworldanalyzer.com. or creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com, click the Storage World Analyzer tab. Thank you very much, and I look forward to being with you next week.